jurisdictions, all of these are public policy making environments. And finally, public policymakers may exercise their power, their authority, only within their spheres of constitutionally prescribed authority. Congress can't go ahead and make land use laws because those laws fall under the purview of the states and local governments. Local governments can't make foreign policy because those capabilities fall within the purview of the national government. As long as we remember that each of these various levels can make policies within their respective jurisdiction, everything is fine. The bottom line is simply this: public policy exists at all levels of authority. Public policy is made in order to make sure that society's values and needs are met and respected, and public policy is made by those in positions of authority who we empower as policymakers.
Yeah, got it. Now,
in society,
he is highlighting few important things. One thing, being government is having a big responsibility in resources distribution amongst the society. Rather, individual taking decision on this, the government is taking decision on how this distribution and the society should work. And all these policies should be within the framework of the country's law. And who create or who implement policies? Basically the government, and that can be even the local government or at different levels or other different levels. Right? Yeah. So ultimate objective of making these policies for the benefit of the society. Right? Now, today we are discussing these policies and how it affects the engineers and what our role in public policy making and in evaluating. Right? Okay. Now, if you look at our greatest contemporary challenge in this world, that is transcend, going beyond all the disciplinary boundaries like medicine, engineering, production, manufacturing, or whatever. Right? Creating effective policies for issues like climate change, misinformation, or national security, artificial intelligence, and natural disaster response, privacy, and critical infrastructure, which needs knowledge that combines both technical and social science fields. Right? In other words, setting up policies is crucial, and this is required knowledge of technical as well as social science. Now, this public policy is not purely a technical thing. It is a mix with more towards, more sense from the social sciences. There is a definition. This is given by Bauer in 1968. We'll read this and see. The various labels are applied to decisions and actions we take depending in general on the breadth of the implications. Now we are giving label to our decision and action. So how we are going to give the label for our decision and action? That's depending in general on the breadth of their implications. What will happen with your decision? If it is a minor implication or if it is a major implication. If they are trivial and repetitive, what do you mean by trivial? Trivial mean insignificant, minor, or those are repetitive, repeating, and demand little cognition. You don't want to think too much, right? They may be called routine action. Some of our decisions are routine actions, in simple, right? If they are somewhat more complex, on the other hand, if our decision or actions somewhat more complex, we may refer to them as a tactical decisions, little more complicated. For those that have the widest ramification, what do you mean by ramification? Consequences. So what is happening because of our action, because of our decision? So those we call consequences or ramifications. And the longest time perspective, it is not just happening today. So if it's affect for a period of maybe 1 year, 2 year, 5 years time, if that is the case, this require more information and contemplation. We tend to reserve the word policy for those kind of action or a decision we call policy. I think everybody got clear. Yeah. I will tell it again. Now, as per this definition, we identify our decision and action in two categories. The one of the decision and action is not very important. It is repeating. It doesn't require more thinking. That we call those routine things, those we call routine actions. The other things, our decisions, actions, they are more complex. And it has a lot of consequences. Once you take that decision or once you implement that action, there are consequential actions. Because of A happen, B happen, C happen, continuously some chain of actions happening. And this impact is not a short term. It impact for a longer period. So this we call the word policy. Right? Now, for us to understand again, like in other subject areas also, there are a couple of theories to understand public policy. The one is elite theory, the other one group theory, system theory, incremental theory, rational choice theory. All these are social theories, not very engineering technical things. Right? Right. What do you mean by elite theory? Why we are actually discussing this theory? That is to understand what is public policy, right? Basically, to gain a deeper understanding of public policy, in general, scholars use, the scholars mean the researchers, they use models and theories. as a tool. That is why we are looking at these theoretical aspects in order to understand really what is public policy and how it occurs and why it is required. So how to implement, how to evaluate. For us to understand all things, we need to look at theoretical perspective as well. Allied theory. The first theory we are looking at is allied theory. Now, in the first video also we show, and I highlighted even, the public policy does not seek to serve the majority public's interest. In this video also said, the policies will not be neutral. It will get benefit for some party. It will get negative impact to another part. Right? In allied theory, it discusses in this way, public policy does not seek to serve the majority public's interest, but those of few in top positions. If you all can remember the Vilfredo Pareto's law 80-20, that is how we explain, the society, how it works. Right? Generally, the elite are divided into two groups: the government and the non-governing team. This theory says the government take decisions on behalf of the other people. Or even in the society, few people take decision for their benefits, or others has to follow. So the policy is evolving based on this theory. Got it clear or not clear? If I'm explaining it in another way, now in any society, the part of the society may be a small numbers, let's say 20%, but their voice is so high. The majority, that means 80% of the people, their voice is low. That is what Vilfredo Pareto told. Right? This 20% people, because of their voice is so high, so they are the elite team. The policies are implementing based on their voices. Right? So, this elite theory is one of the good theory for us to understand the public policy. Right. Now we'll move to the next one, group theory. What group theory says, public policy is a result of the group struggle. Now, this theory is saying the policies are occurring, evolving, implementing because of the group's struggles. Struggling means they find out some problem, and as a solution only this comes. If you say in other words, what we know as public policy is the state of equilibrium reached in the given in the Groups struggle at any given time. When a group is struggling, for an example, now what has happened about a year back, we were struggling to get fuel at filling stations. We have vehicle, but no fuel. So government implemented a policy. You will have a QR code based on your vehicle and the job requirement. You will be allocated maximum this much of fuel, petrol or diesel. So that happened because of group struggle. The policies are happening because of group struggle. Right? I think now everybody clear. Right. Then the system theory. In our very first lecture also, we discussed system theory. The response of the political system to demand from the environment. The system theory says the policies are happening to response of the political system to demand from the environment. When from the environment, when there is a demand, the response of the political system. The political system, how responding? By implementing a policy. When from the environment, the social environment, when people are demanding to have 13th Amendment, the government, the political response is to implement that 13th Amendment or whatever the similar policies. Yeah. So that is what it says. Then the other one, incremental theory. What is incremental theory saying? It is like this. Now, always there are limited changes or additions to the existing policies. Yeah. There are limited changes or addition to the existing policies always. It is not a new policy. Always the available policies will be changed slightly or amended slightly. This theory discusses about that. The other one, the rational choice policy or rational choice theory. This approach is constructed on economic principles. Economic principles. Yeah. Basically, the cost benefit analysis. Now, if a society, part of the society is getting more benefit in terms of cost, then maybe we are implementing. For an example, we think of developing industries in the country, let's say garment industries. So then what we would do, we will, in order to support these industries, the government may impose certain import restrictions. Those are rational choice theory policies related to that. What is this? This is showing something in this side and the other side are this whatever the actions taken by this party affecting here, and whatever the actions taken by that party affecting here. This is a reciprocal. Public policy affecting engineering profession and engineering profession actions affecting public policy. Public policy significantly influences the work of engineers across all the disciplines, whether mechanical, electrical, civil, IT, or whatever. These policies are influencing engineers across all the disciplines. Right? You all must be having enough experience if it comes to the civil engineering. When we are building, let's say, a building, there are limitations. For an example, if the road frontage, the road width of the width of the road of the property or the land is so much, there is a rule for us to, so how many stories that we can go up? Yeah. And when it comes to IT, there are many policies. When it comes to the electricity, so you can't just produce electricity and plug into a national grid, right? So there are policies, there are restrictions, there are rules. That means whatever the available policies affecting our disciplines, engineering practices. That is regardless of an engineer's awareness or involvement in policy making. We aware or we are not, or whether we are involving or not, that is what is happening, right? By engaging in the creation or modification of these policies, engineers can, on the other hand, gain control and ability to incorporate their own value into their work. What does it mean? Engineers can involve in making public policy. We have a big role because we know some technical know-how. The policy should make based on those technical know-how. One of the theory we previously discussed, the rational choice theory, we have to implement policies by looking at cost-benefit analysis to the society. For us to do that one, we have to give our input. Yeah. Okay. Why should engineers get involved in public policy? That is because we have ethical mind. Now, in earlier the topic we discussed the engineer's ethic. We have ethical responsibility. What's the responsibility? Engineers have a responsibility to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public as per the Code of Ethics by National Society of Professional Engineers Code. This is one of the definition. or else engineers shall all the time strive to serve the public interest. If so, we have a duty to involve in creating public policies for the benefit of the society. Some of the policies that we need to involve in order to have safe environment, healthy environment, right? So that is why engineers should get involved with this policy creation. But unfortunately, most of the policies are created by non-engineering people, or sometimes they are not taking engineering professions involvement. But whenever we have opportunity, we should greatly involve with this policy creation. Yeah. Now, we at the beginning said the humanity's greatest contemporary challenge transcend disciplinary boundaries. The humanity's greatest challenge going beyond disciplinary boundaries. We said that we have issues like climate change, misinformation, national security, artificial intelligence. So we will look at the climate change issue now here as one example. We have a warning. What's the warning? The pace and the scale of what has been done so far. For what? For the climate change. And our current plan are insufficient to tackle climate change. Now, whatever the action that we have taken so far is insufficient to tackle the climate change. That's the warning. But we have a hope. What's the hope? There are multiple feasible and effective options to reduce greenhouse gas emission and adapt to human-caused climate change. Now we have ways to do that one. What is the one way? Maybe reducing burning coal or fuel, or going for green energy like solar or the hydropower, wind, renewable energy. There are multiple ways. Yeah. So but the challenge is emissions should be decreased by now, and will need to cut almost half by 2030. If warming is to be limited to 1.5 degrees beyond the pre-industrial era temperature. Now the pre-industrial era temperature, let's say 27, from 27 plus another 1.5, that is our target by 2023-30. In order to keep that limit, we need to cut whatever the emission that happening in the world today by 50%. That is the challenge. Now what we have to do? We have to do policy changes. That is how policies are evolving. Right? Okay. Okay. Now we'll look at, now we said that why engineers should involve with policy. We said that is because it affects our professional practice. I mean, whatever the existing policies impact on our practice, And other thing, we said that we have ethical responsibility on society, so we need to involve. How we can involve? So there are many ways. There are many ways that we can involve in public policy. One, the first one, we have to comply with the regulations, whatever the existing policies. We have to comply. First thing, we have to comply with existing regulations. For an example, a civil engineer working on a construction project, say, he should ensure that building design adhere to the local safety codes, environmental regulations, and zonal laws. As I said earlier, if the land size is so much, if the road frontage is so much, and there is a limit that we can go up. I don't know whether you all have noticed some of the apartment projects, even in a very narrow roads, they are going 20 stories, 25 stories. As per the regulations, that cannot be done. So definitely there is some ethical violation, including engineering professionals. So we should not do those things, because one thing, we are unethical by doing so. Other one, we are violating our own policies. Okay, the other way of involving public policy, pursuing government funding for projects. What kind of projects? Any idea? What kind of a project? Today we have 28 people, earlier 31 was here. What kind of project? Anyone? Any volunteer? Okay, we'll take this example. An environmental engineer applies for a government grant to fund a project aimed at reducing carbon emission in communities through the implementation of renewable energy sources. We force government to spend on renewable energy projects. That can be a wind power plant, that can be a hydropower plant, that can be a solar power plant. Or else, rather importing a lot of vehicles, individual, in order to have the transportation system, the engineers should force government, for government to fund on mass transportation systems like monorail or railways, right? Thereby, we can save a lot of energy. We can stop burning a lot of fuel, big amount of fuel. Otherwise, if it's individual vehicle going, a lot of fuel we are burning. And in one way, we are spending dollars. The other way, we are polluting our own environment. We have to go for mass transportation. Okay. So what's the next way of involving in public policy? That is participating in planning. A transportation engineer join a city planning committee to contribute expertise in designing a new public transit system that meets a city's future needs while adhering to environmental impacts. That's an example. If I repeat that example, transportation engineer can join city planning and he can contribute his expertise knowledge in public transit systems. So which road should connect to the other road? And what's the width of the road? Which direction vehicle should move? Right? Whether do we need a flyover here or a bridge here? Right? Now, I guess you all must have heard if you are doing any kind of a new project, we have to do a TIA, Traffic Impact Assessment Test. We look at whether you are doing an office building, whether you are doing a housing project, you have to look at the road width and you have to look at how many families or how many people go in there, how many vehicles are moving, whether this road is enough. Yeah. So similarly, we have to look at a future requirement of transportation also. So as an example, in a city planning, and transportation engineer can give his inputs in city planning. Okay. The other way of involving in public policy is setting up standards. Okay. Since we discussed a lot of civil engineering, electrical engineering related things, we'll take an example of a software engineer's contribution. A software engineer contributes to the development of industry-wide standards for cybersecurity, ensuring that the technologies are safe and secure for public use. You can have cybersecurity policies ensuring that new technologies are safe in a hospital system, maybe the railway system, maybe. Engineers can set standards. If you take another example, say energy related professions, or maybe electrical engineer, he can set a standard. How many of you all heard about Energy Authority, Energy Regulatory Authority? Sri Lanka is having Energy Regulatory Authority. Now, if you are building a building, that can be a hospital, that can be an office building, that can be a residential apartment. Per square feet, how much energy should generally consume? There are limitations in other countries. By reducing that energy footprint, by implementing those controls, we can improve the efficiencies in our buildings. You can set standards. Yeah, per square feet, only, let's say, 5 kilowatts per square feet. That's the standard. Even the water consumption. For office building, how many liters per square feet or how many liters per square area, square meter or something. There we can put standards by carefully studying, right? So there the engineer can involve and set standards. By doing so, we can involve in public policies. The other thing, create regulatory rules. If you take an example of a chemical engineer can collaborate with government agencies to develop regulations that limit the release of hazardous chemical into the environment. So, chemical engineer can involve in public policy by creating regulatory rules. I mean, if you are having a factory, from the factory, the wastewater is, if it's creating wastewater, those wastewater, you can't just arbitrarily put into public canal or a river or a marsh area. You can't do it. There you have to check the quality levels of the water that you are discharging, whether it is suitable to put it out. You have to check maybe BOD, biological oxygen demand, or maybe you have to check COD, the chemical oxygen demand, or the turbidity, whether some more material or the chemical is there, a pH value, whether acidic or not. Those things we need to check. Okay. The other way of involving is craft for legislations. There you can think of a mechanical engineer can implement legislation that promote energy efficient building practices, right? Testifying before a legislative body to support the adoption of these standards. You can create legislations. As I earlier said, now the energy should not consume anything more than 25 kilowatts per square feet. Or the water should not consume anything more than 3 liters per square feet per day or per month or whatever. So you can create legislations. The other way is volunteer support or forestall regulations. Engineers, in addition to above, can voluntarily support in public policies. Yeah. So then, what the skills required by engineer to engage effectively in public policies? Now, we so far discussed our responsibility and why we should engage and how we are going to engage. Now, what the skill we required? Engineers will need a mental toolkit that foster problem solving and analysis before they can engage effectively in public policy. Engineers need a mental toolkit that foster problem solving and analysis. You have to have good skills for problem solving and analyzing. That is why we learn some non-technical decision making. We discuss about analytic hierarchy process. We discuss about Wilfredo Pareto 80-20 rule. We discuss about decision tree. We discuss about decision matrix. We discuss about what else? We discuss about we discuss many tools. Yeah. SWOT analysis. Yeah. We discuss about SWOT analysis. Now we have to have ability to analyze and the problem solving skill. Now here I have extracted an article, a report by John Ramsey. John Ramsey published this article in 1993 in journal Science Education. This document emphasizes the importance of integrating social responsibility into science education, which highlight schools should prepare students not just for academic success, but also for active citizenship, right? So you all better read this article. If you are unable to find this article, or otherwise I forgot to actually upload, or I don't know whether I have uploaded. Did I upload this article today? Did you all check? I think I uploaded. If not, I will upload. Read this article, right? So it discusses the importance and the skills that require by engineers to involve in policy making. Yeah. Okay. To shape public policy, engineers should know how to identify how science and engineering play a role in social science issues. How science or engineering play in social issues. We should know how it happens. We should analyze issues, including identifying key players and how their beliefs and values influence the solutions. Basically, we should be able to listen. Can you remember yes, in our decision-making lecture series, we said it is not only the technically we should look at in any of the project. We should look at the other factors. We said the economic benefits, the social benefits, all these things we should look at. In very first lecture, we said about the system theory. We have to look at other systems as well. What's the ramification? What's the influence? What's the impact? What's the consequences? Yeah. And we should examine problems holistically. We should not look at in a very small area, not only inside the room. You have to go beyond the room. You have to look at including social, economic, political, legal, ecological ramification. Ramification means the consequences. You have to look at all these systems. Engineers should recognize the need for other disciplines, right? In simple terms, we have to look at the whole picture, helicopter view. You have to see all the problems, not only the technical side, not only the engineering side. You have to look at other aspects like economics, political, legal, ecological, and all. Evaluate all the evidence to determine the most effective solution. You should be able to evaluate each and every solution, because we should understand there is no single best solution. There will be more solutions, more options. We should be able to select best option based on the requirements and the environment. We have to use decision-making models that we learn to develop action plans while recognizing limitations of the decision-making models. We should understand the limitations also. Yeah. Then we should execute the plans and we should recognize the need of tracking the progress. And you have to do the changes and again track. Yeah. So the policy is not a linear process. Nowadays, we discuss everything in circular. We'll look at policy formulating process. Now, what this slide shows. Now, the policies are evolving with science and technology. When the relevant science and technology part comes, the policy, it passes to policy analysis and the frames. And it interprets the science and technology for policy making. For an example, let's say the buildings needs to use rainwater. We can put a requirement. The technology, we have to have a different system, or we have to have a system to purify the rainwater in order to use as a potable water. Potable water means drinking water. That's the science and technology part. Then you analyze and it goes up and down. So once this is satisfied, it goes to policymakers use policy analytic and other inputs. Then from there, you will have some political inputs also. Once everything is satisfied, it goes as a public policy. I said policies or whatever the process is not linear. I said it's circular. Here also, though the diagram is showing like a linear, it's going up and down. You're going in this direction, going in this direction, again improving, coming back. So here also, here it is very clearly figure it out. This is actually showing the stages of policy analysis or creating policy. In order to understand, now today, in the beginning, we discuss now how the policies are happening. Sometimes so a couple of theories we discuss. One is we said the group struggle as a solution. Problem definition. Now there is a problem, the group problem, the definition. Then in order to resolve this problem, we put an agenda. Then we come to, okay, as a solution, we write some policies. Now, after we agree into these policies, we have to legalize it. It has to be issued as a gazette. Right? Sometimes Sri Lanka, so today issuing a gazette, tomorrow it is withdrawing, it's a different case. But you have to legislate it. Once you legislate it, legalize it, you have to implement the policy. During implementation, you have to operate it and see. You have to monitor it. You have to evaluate it. When you are evaluating, if a reform required, you have to do a changes. And again, we have to look at if problem is different to the earlier situation, we have to again need the changes. So this is a cyclical process. This is in fact called a heuristic model or heuristic theory. Right? Now, earlier we discussed theories to understand policies. Here, we are discussing some of the theories to understand the policy process. The stages heuristic is one of the theory that we already discussed. It says some stages of the policy making that we have already discussed, right? There are enough articles, enough documentaries, enough YouTube videos in Google, right? If you all feel you can have enough information, literature. Yep. So then we will look at other approaches. The one is advocacy, coalition framework, multiple stream framework, institutional rational choice, social construct, and policy design. Some of the theories to understand policy process. The heuristic model, the policy process, we identify that as a stages. Okay. Since we don't have much time, we'll move on fast. Advocacy, coalition framework. What is this? If you read this part, an advocacy coalition is like a team of people from different backgrounds, like government officials, leaders of organizations, and researchers, who all share similar benefits and idea about a particular issue. Now, we are telling that policies are coming because of issues. Now they are having similar belief or idea about a particular issue. These people work together over time to push for a certain policies or a solution that align with their shared values. Now what they do, these people, who are these people? Government, officials, or the leaders of organization and researchers. These people work together over a time to push certain policies. Why? Because we have a problem. Policies or a solution. For a problem, we are giving a solution that align with their shared values. They believe they have same value system. The advocacy coalition framework looks at how different groups with different beliefs, now not the same beliefs, different people, different groups with different beliefs compete with each other within a specific area of policy in a subsystem. This happened within a large political system and environment, right? The advocacy coalition framework suggests that policy making is not controlled by just one group, but is instead an open process involving multiple levels and different groups of working together or in opposition. They work together or in opposition, ultimately come to equilibrium. That's how policy is created. That is what advocacy coalition framework theory is saying. We will take an example, climate change advocacy coalition. Right? Now we have a problem. Okay. What's the background? Background is climate change is a significant global issue. I'm always taking this example. Climate change is a significant global issue. What's the issue? The temperature increases. Right? And more frequent extreme weather events and melting ice in poles, northern or southern. These changes are believed to be driven by human activities. These changes because of our activities on, particularly the burning fossil fuels, which releases greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. Now, this is the problem of the background of the problem. Now, based on advocacy coalition framework, we'll see how to create a policy. Yeah. Now, who will be the members for the coalition? The definitely environmental activists, right? Maybe Dr. Ajanta Perera there, right? Dr. Kotagama will be there. And I can remember some lawyers will be there, right? And in addition to that, scientists and researchers and the government on one side and some of the NGOs. These are the advocacy coalition members, right? So within these members, there will be a coordinated activities and competing activities. One is coordinating, other one is competing. What are the coordinating? Lobbying for legislation, public awareness campaigns, scientific research and reports, international cooperations. These advocacy coalition members, everybody wants for legislation. They will do public awareness campaigns. They do scientific research and reportings. And there is a international cooperation also. Internationally, UN is supporting. What's the competing coalition? While this advocacy coalition with pursuing for a strong action on climate change, there may be competing coalitions with different beliefs. There you will find different set of people. They are not supporting this. For example, a coalition of industry leaders. Industry people may be saying, all that's fine, but for country to move forward, we need dollars, we need exports, we need manufacturing sector to grow. Look here, India, China, they are burning so much of fossil fuel. And whether we do or not, because of the wind moving, so we are getting all these bad gases. We are a smaller economy, so we will carry out. And maybe another politicians, I can remember one of the politicians who was telling, we don't want oxygen or something in Puntland. Yeah. So there will be political people also right? They may get together and they will have a different argument, right? So that is to oppose or weaken our climate policies, those who are working together. So then what will happen? So in this advocacy coalition framework, the outcome will be like this. The effectiveness of the advocacy coalition depends on the ability to influence policy decision within broader political system. Now, the people who are able to influence the policy decisions, right, will do so. If the voice is slow or low, the other party have to go back. The effectiveness of the advocacy coalition depends on its ability to influence, policy decisions. The stronger party will win. If successful, the coalition might help to pass new environmental regulations, promoting the use of renewable energy and ultimately reduce the impact of a climate change. In this example, since we have taken the climate change, yeah. Even in classroom, you will see some people's voice is so high, some people, they are just keeping calm, quiet. So whatever comes out as the classroom's collective decision may not be the real representation of the classroom. Only the people who are talking will talk, their decisions only coming out. The same way, other areas as well. Okay. In summary, this advocacy coalition brings together diverse groups who share a common belief in the need to address the climate change. By working together over a time, they aim to influence policy and create legislation, environmental change. This is the framework. Here, the coalition team A, coalition team B. So they are policy, belief, resources. The other team's policy, resource, beliefs. So the policy broker is in the middle. So ultimately, this comes diverting into one line. So finally, something coming out as a policy, and it goes in circle. So leisurely go through all these things. It's very simple. Yeah. This is the flow diagram of advocacy coalition framework. Right. We'll move to the next theory, the multiple stream framework. What does this mean? Policymaker aims and policy problems are ambiguous and interested actors struggle to research issues and produce viable solution quickly. Here, policymakers aim and policy problems are ambiguous. What is their aim and the problem? Not very clear. And interested actors, the parties who are interested, struggle to research the issue and produce viable solution quickly. There are problems. The policy has to implement it so quickly, but it takes time. Why taking time? The interested parties struggle to research the issue. Yeah. Sometimes people wait for the right time to present their pet solutions, like our politicians. during this period, they are giving a lot of promises. Those things, more than 75% of these things cannot be implemented as policies in the country in a long run. Right? The politicians are basically, once they come to power, the parliament is there to create policies for the benefit of the society. As that professor very clearly said, policies are not neutral. Always it will bias to some party, but in the long run, the whole society should get benefit. Right. Now, here it says sometimes policymakers just want to look busy and decisive. So problem identification, solution, production, and choice are relatively independent streams. Now, this theory is saying because of various reasons, problem identification and solution giving and choices are relatively independent streams. Those things technically should happen together, but these things are happening independently. So, Kingdom adopted this policy-making metaphor. You know what is metaphor? Metaphor is kind of a, for an example, in order to identify organization structure, we say it's like a tree branches. The CEO at the bottom from the stem and the branches, the other directors or whatever. Yeah, something like that. Metaphor. Now here, the Kingdom, this researcher adapted this policy-making metaphor to argue that there are three separate streams. He is saying policy is having three different streams. What are these different streams? Problem identification, solution production, and choices. Three separate streams must come together at the same time, and they must do during a brief, but this is happening separately. So multiple stream framework. So they are saying these are the problem stream, policy stream, and political streams, politics streams. These are the three different streams. Okay, we'll further dig into and see. Problem stream. Attention lurches to a policy problem. Only a tiny fraction of a problem receive policymakers' attention, not the whole problem. Getting attention is a major achievement which must be acted on quickly before attention shifts elsewhere. A shift of attention may relate to a focusing event, or the sense that well thought out solution already exists. The problem stream. Yeah, got it? Only a tiny fraction of problem receive policymakers' attention. And getting attention is a major achievement which must be acted on quickly before attention shifts elsewhere. That is the problem stream, identification of problem. Then the policy stream, a solution to the problem is available. While attention lurches quickly from issue to issue, viable solutions take time to develop. Kingdom describes the policy solution in a policy primeval soup, evolving as they are proposed by one actor, then reconsidered and modified by others, and process of softening as some issues take time to become accepted within policy networks. Now, this policy stream, now after identifying the policy, after identifying the problem, the policy streaming also taking time, and it's a different stream. And then the politics stream. Policy makers have the motive and opportunity to turn the solution into policy. Policy makers have to pay attention to the problem and be receptive to the proposed solution. They consider many factors, including their beliefs and the national mood and feedback. Yeah. They receive the interest, feedback they receive from interest groups and political parties. Now, they will not implement policies as they wish. As they mean the policy makers. They will take time, political stream take time for their benefits, right? For an example, when an election is there, so most of the policies will not be implemented if they think that it will reduce the voting base. Now, basically, this multiple stream framework theory is what it says. This policy is having 3 different streams. These 3 different streams identically, technically should work together, but it's not happening together. So the policies are taking delay. The other one, institutional rational choice. Now we are talking the 4th one. Yes, institutional rational choice. Right? I will tell in very short. Now, rational choice, the logical choice. Why people, individuals join institutions? They join because they believe it will benefit for them in some way. That is why people join institutions. Institutions provide individuals with certain benefits: security, economic benefits, social status, or whatever. Right? For examples, professional organizations like IESL, GMAO, bar associations, or other side, the trade unions, those are institutions. Now, how these institutions influence policies? Yeah. How these institutions influence policies? Since they want some benefits, they influence policymakers in order for them to get some benefits. Especially trade unions, nurses trade unions, locomotive drivers trade unions, water board or CEB, they're always saying that, okay, their salaries has to be this. You can't, the government can't privatize certain sectors. So they influence. So that is called institutional rational choice. Then the last one, social construction and policy design. What do you mean by social construction? Social construction mean it's again a social science word. social groups. You will understand if we are discussing, when we are discussing this example, there are many examples. We'll discuss this example. In the case of housing policies for rural to urban migrant workers in China, the social construction of migrant workers as dependents rather than deviants has influenced policy design and distribution of housing benefits. Now, there are a lot of Chinese people from rural area coming to urban. They are migrating from rural to urban. The most of those people were considered as deviants. Deviants mean individuals or a group of people who deviate from the accepted norms of the society by behavior or various some values of the society. Now, the deviants, so we have to basically we have to punish. Now, these people, this migration created a huge issue in China. They were identified as a social construction group, deviants, but later on, these people symbolically they identified as not deviants, they identified as dependents. By doing so, the Chinese government resolved this migrant workers issue to a certain level. They shift in policy focus, increase promises of benefits, symbolic policy implementation, that's the change from deviants to dependents. They provided some substantive benefits and some kind of housing distribution, but not at complete. Right? Now, this social construction group. Now, this social construction group, these migrants, this group influence to change the policies. If you take up in Sri Lankan example, sometimes back, the Tamil people who were plucking trees, plucking tea in upcountry, those people were brought from India. They did not have the voting authority, voting power. But since that number of people is significant, after some times, they influenced policymakers to get some benefits. They initially got the voting power. Now we hear this political campaign period. They are going to get permanent shelters or a land. So that is a constructive group, social construction group. So there are many examples like that in Bangladesh. Yeah, there are like similar groups. They're also influencing the policymakers in making some changes in their policies in order to get some benefits. Okay. Our time passed, but only few things that we need to highlight in participating engineers in policy making. So we want to be not the passive member, we have to be an active member. So passive mean, so somebody is setting up policies, so you are always ruled by policies. Now, being engineers, you have to actively participate in making policies as well. It is your responsibility. It is part of your ethics. Yeah. Some of the tools that you can use in analyzing policies. Yeah. So I will discuss only one of this thing, water quality reuse classification. Yeah. Now, being engineers, you all know that the quality of water required for various functions are different. The drinking water, the toilet flushing, irrigation, or the recreational, those water qualities are different. By knowing all these qualities, levels, by various parameters like pH value, temperature, turbidity, BOD, COD, and all these things. So you can create a policy that in a building, for an example, or whatever the water collecting in wash basin or a sink to be used in toilet flushing, because that water is sufficient enough, good enough for the toilet flushing. Or the rainwater to be used in irrigation and toilet flushing, because that quality of water is sufficient enough, right? So by using technology, so you prepare something like this and make use that in creating policy. That's it. And there is a nice video actually. Again, this video, since this link is there, you all can watch, right? This video again, one of the professor, this is a Professor Tom Birkeland, is a professor of public policy from Carolina State University. He explained, he introduced about the public policy. Just to refresh, have a look later. Yeah. So with this, we can conclude. You all have any question? Any question? This is the only university I'm lecturing. So where the students' feedback is almost nil. You know, the learning, real learning is happening as per the one of the philosopher called Socrates, is by questioning. So the teacher just keep on talking will not be useful. The real learning happening when the student is questioning. The student should question. Then only the learning can happen. Right? So at least I hope that this is not end of your study journey. So you all always should open your mouth, talk. No need to be shy. I mean, whatever comes, whatever the idea, right? So put it into word and express your view. and argue, right? Your whatever the idea may be aligned with my view or maybe a different, but should argue, then only the learning can happen. Okay, any questions regarding the policies? Or any questions regarding the other topics that we have discussed up to date? Now with this session, the whole lecture series is over. Probably by next week, as per the university sources, we need to have a midterm exam. In fact, today I have prepared some of the questions also. Right. Meantime, I got an email from one of you all saying that whether we can consider the markings 60% for assignment and 40% for exam. All that is fine, but everything will be decided by basically the university, because the university is having standards and they meant to maintain those standards. We'll see how feasible. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, with this, our lecture series is over. Hope you all learn something, right? You all understood, I hope you all understood the responsibility, ethics, and the talent of the engineer. Yeah. Okay, then all the best. We will communicate with you all with regards to the assignments and exams. If you all have anything, I think most of you all know my phone number. You all can WhatsApp if there is anything. So I may sometimes delay in responding during working hours, but I will respond. Or otherwise, on behalf of you all, one representative can communicate with me, right? Okay, then all the best. We will wind up with this. Yeah. Okay. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.